Most people don't realize how much of their life is dictated by the inner conversations they never questioned. You wake up in the morning and the voice in your head already has something to say. Sometimes it's self-doubt, sometimes it's worry, sometimes it's laziness dressed as comfort. But here's the truth. If you don't choose to master your mind, that voice becomes your master. And if that voice is full of fear, limitations, and excuses, so will your life be. Mastering your mind isn't about pretending to be positive all the time. It's about taking full control over your internal narrative. It's about becoming aware of the subtle ways your mind tries to keep you safe by keeping you small. The mind's job is survival, not success. It's programmed to avoid pain, avoid risk, avoid change. But the next 10 years of your life won't be shaped by what's safe. They'll be shaped by what you dare to face. And that begins inside your own head. Think about how many people live in prisons they built with their own thoughts. They talk themselves out of opportunities. They replay past mistakes like it's a movie they're stuck in. They doubt their worth, compare themselves to others, and then wonder why nothing changes. It's not because they lack talent or potential or luck. It's because their mind is running on autopilot, and the autopilot was programmed by fear, society, trauma, and years of limiting beliefs. You have to become the one who takes the wheel back, because here's what no one tells you. Your mind is trainable. Just like your body, you can build mental strength the same way you build physical strength, with consistency, discipline, and intention. The more you practice choosing empowering thoughts, the easier it gets. The more you catch your inner critic and reframe it, the quieter it becomes. Over time, you go from being controlled by your emotions to becoming the observer of them. That's power. It starts with awareness. You can't fix what you don't even notice. You've got to start listening to yourself. Catch the subtle ways you talk down to yourself. Notice how quickly you assume you'll fail. Pay attention to how often you say, I can't, I'm not ready, or what if it goes wrong? Those words aren't facts, they're programming, and you get to rewrite it. The next step is ownership. You got to stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect time. The people who master their minds don't rely on how they feel. They rely on what they've decided. Feelings come and go, but choices are what shape your life. If you keep waiting to feel confident before you act, you'll never act. Confidence comes after doing the hard thing, not before. Then comes discipline. You have to set the tone for your mind every single day. That means choosing what you feed it. Your inputs matter. The people you follow, the conversations you have, the things you read, the content you consume. All of that becomes your mental diet. And just like junk food affects your body, mental junk affects your thoughts. If all you feed your mind is negativity, gossip, comparison, and distraction, don't be surprised when you feel anxious, low value, and stuck. Mastering your mind requires protecting it ruthlessly. You also need rituals, not just morning routines, but mental hygiene. That might be journaling, that might be meditation, that might be saying affirmations, reading something powerful, or just sitting in silence and listening to your thoughts. Your mind is like a muscle. It needs regular training, rest, and reflection. The world is loud, chaotic, and constantly trying to influence you. If you don't have a quiet place to return to, you'll get swept up in everything that isn't even you. And here's the most important part. You have to believe you're in control, because if you don't believe that your thoughts are changeable, you'll never try to change them. You'll just keep reacting. But the truth is, no matter how long you've lived with fear, self-doubt, anxiety, or negative habits, you can rewire your mind. Neuroplasticity is real. Change is real. You are not your past. You are what you choose today. You don't have to wait for a new year or a rock bottom or a breakdown. The moment you decide to take back your mind is the moment your future begins to shift. Because here's what it all comes down to. Your mind is either your weapon or your weakness. It's either building your dream life or it's talking you out of it. Every day you have a choice to lead it or be led by it. The next 10 years won't be determined by how smart you are, how talented you are, or how lucky you get. They'll be determined by one thing, whether you master your mind or let it master. And the beautiful thing is that power is already in your hands. There are two kinds of people in this world, those who wake up and take charge of their day, and those who wake up and wait to see what happens. One lives on offense, the other lives on defense. This single choice, how you approach life, will determine how the next 10 years unfold for you. It's not just about action, it's about energy, direction, and intention. Playing offense means you decide the tone of your life. Living on defense means you're constantly reacting to other people's plans, problems, and priorities. When you play offense, you wake up with purpose. You don't wait to feel motivated. You already know what needs to be done. You move based on decisions, not emotions. You've already set your goals. You've already outlined your priorities. And now your job is to execute. You don't scroll for 2 hours before you start your day. You don't wait for things to feel right. You move because you've already chosen what you want your life to look like, and you're not letting the world decide for you. Living on defense is different. It's when you give your power away the moment you open your eyes. You check your phone and instantly become a character in someone else's story. You let other people's messages, opinions, emergencies, or drama dictate your mood. You spend your day responding, explaining, fixing, overthinking, and at the end of it, you wonder why you feel so drained. You're not drained because life is too hard. You're drained because you never took the lead. You were reacting all day instead of directing. Playing offense requires clarity. You can't move with power if you don't know where you're going. That's why so many people feel stuck, not because they're lazy, but because they don't have a vision. They don't know what they want, so they say yes to everything. They don't have boundaries, so they get pulled in 100 directions. Offense starts with knowing exactly what matters to you and then ruthlessly cutting what doesn't. You can't afford to be available to everything and everyone. Your focus is currency. Spend it wisely. When you're living on defense, life feels like a loop. You're busy, but you're not fulfilled. You're active, but you're not aligned. You're doing things, but none of it feels like it's moving you forward. And that's because your life isn't being led by you. It's being led by circumstance. You respond to work demands, relationship issues, social expectations, always reacting, always adjusting, but never choosing. Offense is not just about hustle, it's about control. It's about owning your story and deciding what role you're going to play in it. It's about knowing what you're building and waking up every day with the mindset that says, today I move the needle forward, even if it's just a little. It could be a conversation, a rep in the gym, a new skill, a habit, anything, but something moves. That's how momentum is created. And once momentum is on your side, the game changes. People who play offense don't blame, they build. They don't wait, they work. They don't look for shortcuts. They look for mastery. Even when things go wrong, even when they're tired, even when nothing's certain, they still move. Because that's what it means to be in control. It's not about life being easy, it's about being unshakable. Defense is rooted in fear. Offense is rooted in power. And the difference is in the daily choices. You don't need to overhaul your life in one day to switch to offense. You just need to start choosing your actions more intentionally. Ask yourself, did I plan this or am I just reacting? Is this aligned with my vision or am I doing this to please, avoid, or distract? Am I leading my day or is my day leading me? These questions are simple, but they're powerful because the person who asks them regularly is the person who is actively designing their future. The next 10 years are not going to magically shape themselves. They will be built decision by decision, day by day, move by move. You can either stand at the front of your life like a general, commanding your mission, or stand in the background, waiting for things to happen and wondering why nothing changes. It's your choice, offense or defense, lead or be led. And that choice, made consistently, will define everything that comes next. There comes a time in your life where you have to stop watering dead plants, where you have to look around and realize that not everything or everyone is meant to go with you into the next chapter. The hard truth is, if you want the next 10 years of your life to be different, stronger, more fulfilled, and elevated, you have to make the choice to cut what doesn't grow you. This is the part that most people avoid because it's uncomfortable, but growth and comfort can't live in the same space. One has to go. Most people don't even realize how much of their potential is being drained by what they're holding on to. Old friendships that no longer align, relationships that take more than they give, habits that feel good in the moment but leave you empty after, environments that feel familiar but keep you stagnant. You don't grow just by doing more. You grow by doing less of what weighs you down. It's not always about adding. Sometimes it's about subtracting, and that requires courage. We're conditioned to hold on. We're taught that loyalty means endurance, that longevity equals value, and that quitting means failure. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. Walk away from the friend who keeps crossing boundaries. Walk away from the situations that always make you doubt yourself. Walk away from the person you used to be if that version of you no longer fits the life you're trying to build. Letting go is not weakness, it's self-respect. Cutting what doesn't grow you is not about being cold. It's about being clear. You've got limited energy, limited time, limited mental bandwidth. And if you're spending all of that on things that drain you, distract you, or detour you from your goals, then you're not just delaying your growth, you're denying it. Think about it. You can't become your future self while still entertaining the habits of your past self. You can't evolve while staying attached to what's already expired. One of the most powerful signs of self-awareness is being able to assess your life honestly. Ask yourself, who or what in my life is actually helping me grow? Who sharpens me, challenges me, supports the higher version of me? Who drains me? Who brings out my worst traits? Who do I always feel smaller around? You'll know the truth by how your body reacts. Your energy doesn't lie. And when you feel heavy every time you interact with something or someone, that's your cue. Cutting doesn't always mean confrontation. It doesn't always mean drama or loud exits. Sometimes it's quiet distance. Sometimes it's silently shifting your energy, removing access, or changing your habits without announcing it to anyone. You don't owe the world an explanation for protecting your peace. The version of you that's healed, focused, and at peace is worth more than any temporary connection or distraction that tries to pull you back. This choice to cut what doesn't grow you is hard because it forces you to confront identity. Maybe you've been the helper all your life. Maybe you've been the one who always puts others first. Maybe you've built your self-worth around being needed, liked, or approved of. But now it's time to choose you, to choose your future. And that might mean disappointing some people. That might mean walking alone for a while. But better to walk alone in alignment than to walk with a crowd going nowhere. The people who elevate their lives don't do it by accident. They're intentional about their circle, their habits, their thoughts, and their environment. They understand that you can't grow if you're constantly shrinking to fit spaces that don't support your evolution. Every next level of your life requires a next level version of you. And that version of you doesn't settle. That version of you doesn't entertain disrespect, confusion, or chaos. That version of you is selective because elevation requires selection. Don't be afraid to outgrow people, places, or patterns. You're not meant to stay the same. You're supposed to evolve. And sometimes the only thing standing between you and your growth is what you're too afraid to let go of. But once you do, once you cut the dead weight, silence the noise, and clear the space, that's when the real magic begins. That's when your energy levels rise. That's when the right people, the right opportunities, and the right path start aligning. Remember this, you are the environment that you create. Your surroundings, your relationships, your inputs, they all shape your mindset. They either water your potential or starve it, and you get to choose. You get to choose what you keep and what you release. The next 10 years of your life won't be about how much you held on to. They'll be defined by what you had the strength to release, because it's in the letting go, the cutting, that space is made for something greater to grow. Your life is a reflection of what you tolerate, not what you hope for, not what you dream about, but what you consistently allow. That's why this choice to demand standards or settle for patterns is one of the most important you'll ever make. It decides the quality of your relationships, the strength of your mindset, the health of your self-worth, and ultimately the direction of your future. You either choose to raise the bar or you repeat the cycle. There is no in between. Most people live in patterns. They say they want change, but their actions tell a different story. They stay in relationships that are inconsistent. They keep habits that drain them. They hang on to people who don't respect them. They settle for almost, someday, and maybe. And the reason they keep repeating these cycles isn't because they're not capable. It's because they've never raised their standards high enough to break free. You will never rise above the level of what you accept as normal. Standards are the rules you set for how you're willing to be treated by others and by yourself. When you raise your standards, you no longer entertain bare minimum effort. You stop confusing potential with patterns. You stop allowing inconsistency just because you're afraid to be alone. You start saying no to what you used to justify. You start realizing that peace is more valuable than presence and that energy is more valuable than attention. Settling feels easier in the moment because it avoids conflict. It avoids the hard conversation, the awkward silence, the uncomfortable decision. But over time, it costs you so much more. Your confidence, your clarity, your connection with self. Every time you ignore your gut, every time you let someone slide who keeps showing you they don't respect you, every time you betray your own boundaries just to keep the peace, you lower the standard and eventually the standard disappears altogether. Demanding standards doesn't mean being cold, arrogant, or rigid. It means being rooted in your worth, rooted in your vision, rooted in your values. You know what you bring to the table, and you're no longer afraid to eat alone if that means protecting your energy. You know what you deserve, and more importantly, you're willing to lose anything that doesn't align with that. That's real power. That's when people start treating you differently, not because you changed them, but because you changed you. You can't expect people to rise to standards you've never communicated or enforced. People will treat you according to what you tolerate. If you let someone come and go, they will. If you let someone talk down to you, they will. If you keep showing up for people who only show up when it's convenient, they'll keep expecting you to. That's the pattern, and patterns don't change unless you do. The hard truth is, setting standards will cost you. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose access to certain environments that used to feel familiar. But what you gain in return is worth it. Self-respect, emotional clarity, time, peace, and eventually better connections. Because when you stop settling for what's familiar, you make space for what's aligned. The people who are supposed to be in your life will rise to meet your standard. The rest will fall away. And that's the point. Raising your standards also applies to how you treat yourself. You can't demand respect from the world when you don't give it to yourself first. That means keeping your promises to yourself. That means showing up when it's hard. That means choosing discipline over excuses, alignment over approval, and consistency over chaos. It means catching your own patterns before they sabotage your progress. If you've been breaking your own boundaries, it's time to call yourself out and tighten up. You can't hold the world accountable and let yourself off the hook. This next decade of your life is going to mirror the level you hold yourself to, not just in the big decisions, but in the everyday moments, what you say yes to, who you respond to, what you prioritize, how you recover when you slip. That's where your real standard lives, not in what you say you want, but in what you choose over and over again. Don't be afraid to set the bar high. Don't be afraid to be the one who expects more from yourself, from your relationships, from your life. People might not understand it. They might call you too much, too picky, or too intense, but the right ones will see it as strength. The right ones will rise to meet you there. And most importantly, you will start meeting yourself at that level. You'll start feeling the shift in your energy. You'll start seeing how your standards are shaping your reality. You were never meant to settle. You were meant to elevate, but elevation requires standards and standards require discipline. So choose to stop repeating patterns that no longer serve you. Choose to demand more from the spaces you enter, the people you allow close, and the way you treat yourself. That choice, made daily, is how you change not just the next 10 years, but your entire life. Every day you make a decision, whether you realize it or not. You either invest your time, energy, and focus into something that builds you, or you entertain yourself to avoid the uncomfortable work that actually changes you. That's the choice. Invest or entertain. One multiplies your value, the other steals your potential. We live in a world obsessed with distraction, endless scrolling, mindless watching, constant noise. There's always something waiting to pull your attention, a trending topic, a viral video, a drama-filled conversation. And if you're not intentional, you'll spend years entertained and call it resting. But there's a difference between rest and escape. Rest replenishes you. Entertaining yourself isn't the issue. It's when and why you do it that matters. If you're constantly looking for something to numb your mind, to fill the silence, to pass the time, that's not entertainment, that's avoidance. You're avoiding the mirror. You're avoiding the work. You're avoiding the life you say you want, but haven't been willing to build. Because building takes effort, building takes patience, and above all, building takes investment. To invest is to make a decision that might not give you instant gratification, but will absolutely give you long-term results. It's choosing the gym over another night of binging shows. It's choosing a book that sharpens your thinking over another scroll session that numbs it. It's choosing to work on your business, your craft, your goals, instead of just watching other people live theirs online. And no, it's not always fun, but it's always worth it. The most successful people aren't the most talented, they're the most disciplined. They've mastered the art of investing their time like it matters, because it does. Time is your most valuable currency, and once you spend it, it's gone. You don't get refunds on wasted years. You don't get second chances at the hour you just gave away to a meaningless distraction. That's why investment is a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's a form of self-respect. When you start choosing to invest, something powerful happens. You begin to separate from the average. Most people don't want discipline. They want comfort. Most people don't want results. They want distraction. They don't want to be challenged. They want to be entertained. But comfort doesn't grow you. Distraction doesn't fulfill you. Only purpose does. And purpose is fed by investment. Ask yourself this: where are my hours going? Where is my focus going? What is my energy building? Every day is an opportunity to either build something real, your health, your mindset, your relationships, your business, or feed something fake, like your ego, your need for validation, or your avoidance of discomfort. Be honest about what you're choosing, because the results will speak whether you do or not. Entertainment gives you a temporary high, investment gives you permanent transformation. One ends when the screen shuts off, the other compounds every single day. One leaves you in the same place, just a little more distracted. The other pulls you closer to the version of yourself you were always meant to become. There's a reason you feel that nudge in your gut, that quiet discomfort, that feeling that maybe you're meant for more, but you just can't seem to get there. That's your potential, waiting for you to stop entertaining your fears, your doubts, your excuses, and start investing in your evolution. You can't live a powerful life if all you do is consume. You've got to create, you've got to contribute, you've got to sharpen your mind and stretch your capacity. You've got to be willing to get bored, to be uncomfortable, to feel the resistance and still show up. That's how greatness is built. Not in the spotlight, but in the moments no one sees. When you choose to study instead of scroll, to train instead of complain, to build instead of binge. Every minute counts. Every choice adds up. And over the next 10 years, your life will be shaped by how many of those minutes you invested versus how many you wasted. So don't wait until it's urgent. Don't wait until it's too late. Start now. Choose to invest, even if it's small, even if it's quiet, even if no one's watching, because eventually the results will speak so loudly you won't have to say a word.